So, one sim platform that's had a very strange introduction to sim racing has been Rennsport. Now, Rennsport, I've got over 850 hours in Rennsport, which probably surprises quite a lot of you. That's purely from my involvement in the ESL R1 series throughout 2023 and 2024. And ESL R1 was the esports series Rennsport used to launch itself into the sim racing market. It's safe to say in these opening couple of years, Rennsport has been met with pretty negative feedback for the most part. I personally think it's great we've got so many different titles to choose from, especially on PC. They have announced recently that they're bringing it to console and it's going to have cross-platform, so that's quite interesting, to be fair. But yeah, in this video, as always, no bias. I'm just going to assess how realistic Rennsport is as a driving simulator, leaning on my experience driving real GT3 cars. But yeah, how realistic is Rennsport? Let's have a look. Okay, so the way we're going to do this then, so we are going to go into single player time trial, and we will be hot lapping in the Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo 2, because they don't have a McLaren 720S GT3 Evo.
Pookie is missing.
So out of all the GT3s that they have available, I was thinking the Audi's the only mid-engine one, to be honest, so it makes sense to run a mid-engine GT3 as opposed to a Mercedes or a BMW or an Aston where the engine's in the front and the feeling is quite different. Let's try and get it as fair as possible. So yeah, first thing we always do on these videos, right, and we've done it on iRacing, on Ultimate, ACC and a few other games as well, is we always look at the sound first. But I've obviously never driven an Audi R8 GT3, so I'm not 100% clued up as to what it sounds like. Fortunately, we've got our best friend YouTube. Mate, that's such a naughty sounding GT3, isn't it? Oh, big lift in Eau Rouge. Blimey. Does sound good though. Sounds so much better than the McLaren from off-board, doesn't it? At least I think it does. That is a good noise. So that's what it sounds like off-board. We've got a decent idea as to what this thing should sound like. And as I always say, audio is a massive part of immersion for me. I think onboard audio, you can sort of hear it's trying to do it. The tone is a bit different. It's not that accurate, but I can see that they're trying to do the right thing. I think even in the McLaren on other sim titles, this is no worse than some of the ones we've already seen. So, but it's not the same, is it? Let's have a listen. Very quiet. That's not good, is it? That sounds like a lawnmower. When it's coming towards the camera, it sounds really odd. Really quiet at random points as well. It's like it's not detecting the audio at certain angles or something. But yeah, really quiet. Sounds really weak. It's not good. I think that's the worst external car audio we've done across the different platforms so far. I think it has to be. Yeah, Rennsport is powered by Unreal Engine 5 graphics, so I wouldn't say it's that well optimized still. Even though it's been out for a couple of years, I'd say it's still quite choppy. To give some context, I'm fully maxing out the graphics. I'm on a beast PC, and all the specs for that can be found below, just so you know what specs I'm on. I'm getting, on an ultra-wide monitor, 1440p, 99, 98 FPS, with no other cars around. So if you threw 12 other cars into the mix, that's going to drop to 60, 50 FPS. Granted, I'm on max graphics, but still. I mean, the graphics themselves, I feel like have potential. I think they could look quite nice. Yeah, it's not like Race Room, where it's quite mundane and simple with the graphics. I can tell there's a lot going on here, but optimization is definitely struggling. As I go down the Kemmel Straight, it's going down to 85, 80 with all the trees and stuff. So yeah, there's better graphical sim racing experiences out there, definitely. It is a fairly up-to-date version of Spa though. I think a lot of sim platforms haven't got Spa up to date, as it's been updated in the last 5 or 6 years. Rennsport's is very, very good actually. It's probably, if not the best, one of the best versions of Spa you can find. And yeah, it just looks like a decent laser scan version of the track, so a good job in that area. One thing that is slightly annoying is there's no dynamic track, so it's a fixed track state, so same as Race Room basically. You can only really drive one version of grip and condition in Rennsport, which is a bit boring. No wet weather, no ability to change the amount of rubber on the track, that sort of thing. Another thing about the track state, so it's the same grip throughout the whole track, so whether I'm offline like this or on the racing line like this, there's no marble effect. So yeah, not realistic if you think about it. In real life there is the marbles, there's a racing line. If you go off the racing line, there's no grip whatsoever. I mean, there are other platforms out there like this, you know, like ACC for example has the same effect. It seems to be quite a common thing that some sim titles don't capture. But yeah, as we get towards the end of this outlap, if we start to talk about the feeling of the car, which is arguably the most important thing, this feeling has changed quite a lot in the first 2 years of Rennsport being a thing. And the reason I say that is because all of the drivers in ESL R1, including myself, were effectively beta testers for the game. So we all tried a dozen versions of the game with updated tyre models and physics, and there were some very extreme versions where you had to do some very bizarre things to drive the car quickly. It's been up and down, to be honest, in these last couple of years with different versions and stuff. But of course, in today's video, we're on the most recent public build, which I think is V1.12.12 or something. I'll put the number on the screen. The latest public version, basically. And yeah, my first comment with the feeling would be, I've never felt it, but in this version as well, I don't feel much of a connection feeling between the car and the road. It feels just a bit floaty, like extremely floaty. I feel like I'm a hovercraft going across the tarmac, which is it's not a very confidence-inspiring feeling as a driver when you can't feel the tyres connecting to the road, which I can't right now. The tyres almost feel like they're made out of jelly or something. Like, it sounds a bit weird to say that, but that's the feeling it feels like. It's like I'm on a liquid instead of a tyre. So yeah, the FFB feels very numb as a result, so not a great amount of detail coming through. Obviously you can tweak the FFB settings like you can in any other game, and you could probably tune up the detail, but it's almost like it feels extremely artificial when you do that. So during ESL R1, tweaking force feedback settings was quite a big part of trying to find lap time, because it was fixed setup, you couldn't go into the setups and find lap time there. So I've had a massive play around with FFB settings over the years on this game, and this is the best I can come up with, but whatever I do, it feels the same. It feels very floaty, numb. That's the big issue with Rennsport, is that feeling, and that makes it not that enjoyable to drive for a lot of people, I think. What they do capture quite well is the weight feeling, so the cars feel heavy, which in some sim titles isn't the case. So as I've mentioned in previous videos, these GT3 cars are heavy, and this game is capturing that quite nicely. Not as well as ACC, but better than a lot of other titles, so that's good. Speaking of ACC, the braking in Rennsport is very similar. So in these GT3s, what I'll do, smash it to 100% in-game, let the ABS do the work, go down the gears pretty much as quickly as you can, and that's the most efficient way to stop one of these GT3 cars in Rennsport. So yeah, not realistic. I've done videos on it before highlighting that you don't really want to be fully maxing out the ABS. You want to find that perfect threshold, and the finesse of your braking ability will make sure that you're not into the ABS too much, but you're also in it enough to make the most of the brakes. So at the minute, as I say, just smashing it to 100%, that's the quickest way to slow down the car. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like the brakes have much of an effect to the tyres in terms of temperature and pressure, so Again, a little bit of a negative there. And as we know, in real life, the brakes do have a massive effect on tyre temps and pressures, so lacking a bit of realism there. One thing I would say is quite nice is the way that the cars in Rennsport, or at least the GT3s, the way they go over curbs, I think is quite good. Bumps and curbs. I think in some platforms, they can over-exaggerate the feeling of what a car feels like going over a curb or a bump. It can sometimes be quite grabby and it can suck the car in. Whereas on Rennsport, I feel like, I've said it from the get-go actually, 2 years ago, the way the curbs feel just feels quite natural and how it should feel really. So that's a positive point. So yeah, in terms of slip angles, so this has changed across the various builds I've tried, but I asked some of the current ESL R1 drivers who still compete in that series what it's like, because they're the ones that are pushing the tyre towards its limit every single day in practice. Yeah, the way the slip angles work now is the drop-off in grip across the front and the rear axles quite sudden now. It's not very progressive. So what that's done is it stopped some of the insane sliding and drifting we used to see, which is how you used to drive in Rennsport to be quick. You just literally get a massive oversteer moment and just power slide like absolutely crazy, abusing all the slip angles throughout the whole corner. Whereas now, it's not that extreme, but at the same time, it feels like a bit of a sidestep because it's probably too sudden, the drop-off in grip now. So they've just gone from one extreme to another, in a way. So yeah, although it's different now, overall, it's probably not much more realistic. And yeah, the driving style to be quick on this game's always been a bit strange, in the sense that you would come to a corner, you'd brake 100%, you'd spam down the downshifts, you'd trail brake as smoothly as possible, and as soon as you stop trail braking, even before the apex of the corner sometimes, you would literally pick up power, straighten the steering, and just power slide from before the apex sometimes all the way to the exit. And whilst doing this, you'd have TC off, because usually in Rennsport, traction control off is the quickest way to drive. And when you're on the absolute limit, it's a little bit strange. You'll be manipulating the car with both pedals, either the throttle or the brake. There won't be much of a coasting phase like this. So in some sim titles, and in real life, I drive with a bit of a coasting phase. I'll trail brake and then let the car coast for a couple of seconds or a second. Then I'll start to think about picking up throttle and focusing on the exit. So in this game, you can't really do that. It's as soon as you're off the brake, you're straight on power, and you're power sliding a little bit towards the exit. So yeah, this driving style makes it feel a little bit simcadey and gamey. Definitely not how you would drive one of these cars in real life. And don't get me wrong, this version I'm on now is from the limited running I've done is better than a lot of the versions we've had in the past couple of years. Like, it's definitely one of the better versions they've done. But honestly, given we're 2 years down the line, over 2 years, I thought this game was going to be further forward than it is. You know, if you remember the hype back at the start of 2023, this was the next big thing. They had loads of investment. This big series had come out. It was meant to be the next big thing, and it never really kicked on from there, to be honest. It's not really progressed that much. It's slightly more optimized. It feels slightly better. There's more content now, more cars, more tracks. But it's just not really... It's not really ended up where I thought it would after 2 years, you know? Which it's a real shame, and it's never too late in the day. There's still time. And yeah, an overriding thought I have with Rennsport, because one thing we do know is that realism isn't everything when it comes to a sim racing platform being fun to play and drive. You know, a good example of this would be Automobilista 2, where I don't personally think the driving style and the physics are that realistic, but they've still made it very enjoyable and very fun to drive. With Rennsport, I just don't get that same enjoyment. For me, it's just not as fun as an AMS2. So yeah, not only is it lacking realism, it's also lacking a little bit of enjoyment for me as well. Maybe that's because I did the esports on it and it just sort of sucked the fun out of it a little bit for me. Maybe that's why. But yeah, I'm just being honest. I do hate being this negative about something publicly. I think I fully understand the amount of work that must go into building a platform like this. You know, people that are way more intelligent than me involved in building something like this. I wouldn't have a clue how to do this. So full respect to those people, but I just got to say it how it is. You know, I've got to say it how it is, which it sucks, but at the minute, these are my thoughts. And the other thing as well is the sim is still in development, so who knows where it's going to go. There's still time. Of course, it could improve, and fingers crossed it does. You know, the more amazing sim platforms we can have, the better. Because, yeah, this Rennsport is still in early access, so it's still a work in progress. But anyways, enough of all that. Let's, as we always do at the end of these videos, take this GT3 for a little hot lap around Spa. I'm going to go full esports mode, TC off. Let's see if I can remember how to drive quickly on this game. So I'm going to shift at 8,300 into T1. Bit of a oversteer moment on the exit of T1. Don't think that would have been that fast. I tried to brake as late as possible there, but into Eau Rouge. Shifting to 6th before Eau Rouge. That felt pretty okay. Down the Kemmel then, we're going to brake and use the curb at Le Com. We're going to hold 3rd gear, I think. Felt neat and tidy. Into Rivage then. Down 2 gears. Start to pick up power super early. No name. Oh my god. Massive moment in no name. Somehow didn't loop it into P1. Getting severe understeer midway through P1. But we survived. Down to 3rd then for Piff Path. We'll use the curb. We'll just power slide through the middle of Piff Path. And on the exit, we're going to run wide here though. We got away with that track limits wise. Into Stavolo 2. Is it flat? Just. Bit of a scrappy lap, but it's committed. So Blanchimont should be easy flat, and then the chicane, I think lower gears in Rennsport are better with the driving style, where you have to sort of power slide. So we're going to go down to 1st gear. Oof, bit of a wiggle there. 2:16.0. That was always one thing, actually. Sometimes in the ESL R1, we'd be down in the 2:13s. So, yeah, lap times in this game are pretty fast. Overall thoughts then. So, it certainly isn't the most realistic simulator we've tried in this little mini-series so far. I think that's probably enough criticism for one video. So, I'd love to see what your opinions are, and maybe you think I'm chatting a load of waffle. Maybe you agree with me. Let me know. Let me know down in the comments below as well. What racing games shall I try before concluding this little mini-series with a tier list ranking video? But yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Give it a like and subscribe if you did enjoy. It really helps. And I will see you all on the next one. Adios.